Welcome to From the Honeycomb podcast. I am your host, Katerina. Join me as we explore stories of fearless female entrepreneurs and inspiring women in architecture, construction, engineering, and beyond. Each episode is a captivating blend of topics that resonate with the soul. Whether you're here to learn more about entrepreneurship, architecture, holistic living, or just need a little extra inspiration, you've come to the right place. So sit back, relax, and let the buzz of positive energy spark your curiosity. Before I forgot I'm supposed to have plans delivered in like an hour. So if we hear a doorbell, just ignore the doorbell.
Got you. Okay.
You forgot there's one more thing. So, okay, we're good. Okay. This week on the Women in Architecture series, I'm joined by Feyi Quadri, a multidisciplinary designer with a balanced background in both architecture and interior design. She brings a thoughtful, holistic approach to design and is also passionate about giving back to the profession through her volunteer work, contributing her time and perspective to help support and uplift others in the field. Feyi, welcome back to From the Honeycomb.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
It is. And I'm so excited that you're part of the Women in Architecture series this year. And it's just, I can't wait to kind of check in with you and hear what's been going on in the last year.
For sure. Oh
so as you know, we begin every, so what was that?
No, you're good. I was just like, wow, like reflecting on the year. I was like, wow, it's really been a year.
It has. I know. It's like gone by so quick. But yet, like, I feel like so much has happened, but like it hasn't. Like it hasn't. There's like different parts of life.
Yeah. I feel like at certain times it was like the year was speeding up really, really fast. And then it got like really slow. And like, it's weird, like how like murky kind of like in a way, like you're trudging through like mud and you're like, okay, where we're going to get to like the end point and we're going to pick back up again. But like I said, it's crazy thinking back to this time last year when we first talked. It'll be good. It'll be good to catch up.
Yes, for sure. So as you know, we begin every episode by sharing something that we are grateful for in the present moment. So what are you grateful for?
So right now, and we'll talk about this later on, but I'm really grateful for rest. I feel like in this season, I am taking time to just rest and focus on myself. I'm grateful that I have a space with my friends and family that they're giving me that time to rest and recuperate so I can show up for myself and show up for the people around me.
I think rest is so important. My word of the year is slow down. And in the moment, I am not slow. Yeah. And it was slow at the beginning of the year. And then this summer, it just like picked up. And I would keep trying to remind myself, like, you need to rest. You need to slow down. Like, it's so important. You can't just be going on this like hamster wheel or you're going to burn out.
It's hard. And it's funny you say burnout because that's literally what happened for me. Honestly, it got to a point where, because I know last time we spoke, I was like really big on like getting my exams done and powering through with a lot of work initiatives that I was doing. But it got to a point where I had so much on my plate. And I went on a vacation for like a professional development course I was taking. And I came back and I just got sick. And I was the only person doing the work on the project. And so on top of that, I was sick, backed up with work. And I was like completely neglecting like my physical health, my emotional health, my mental health. And I just wasn't showing up for myself and the people around me like I know I could and I've done before. So it took some time for me to just be like, okay, what do I need to pause and like take off my plate in this moment? And it was hard to like get to that point where I was crashing kind of like I really felt like I could not move. And I'm grateful now that I've been able to like step back and like just take a break from literally everything. So I'm kind of on a sabbatical at the moment. Not kind of. I'm on a sabbatical. And honestly, this has been one of the best decisions I've made for myself right now. Because I'm truly, and I feel like a lot of people were forced into taking a sabbatical during the start of the pandemic. Where we're like, okay, how are we showing up in the profession? How are we showing up for ourselves or for our family and for our friends? What position do you see yourself moving forward in the profession? And this is kind of like my part 2 kind of reset. So I'm really grateful that instead of it being forced on me, I'm choosing it now. So definitely power and choice.
Yeah, no, it is. It's great when you can be in control of it too and make the decision for yourself.
Absolutely.
Hi, it's me, Katerina. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to share with you something that can change the trajectory of your life. If you are ready to start your own architecture firm but are feeling overwhelmed by where to begin, I understand, because I felt the same way when I first embarked on my entrepreneurial journey. This is why I have created the ebook, The Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. This comprehensive workbook contains everything I wish I had known before starting my own firm. From building a solid business plan to creating your brand, the Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm offers a step-by-step guide tailored to your timeline, whether you're launching your firm today, next month, or in a few years. Dive into essential topics like financial planning, organization strategies, and how to secure your first client, all in one convenient resource. That's right, you don't have to spend hours researching. I have done that for you so you can focus on building your business. And that's not all. With your purchase, you'll also receive an exclusive meditation for business owners, mindfulness tips, a crystal guide for support, and gratitude exercises to help you stay focused and positive throughout your journey. Turn your dream of having your own firm into a reality with the Mindful Blueprint for Launching Your Architecture Firm. Click on the link in the show notes to get your copy today. Now, let's dive into the episode. So last time when you were on the podcast, you talked a lot about your exam journey and kind of having taken a hiatus, and there was, a lot going on. And now, before we got onto this recording call, you're like, wow, a year ago, and we both listened back to your episode, which for listeners, if you want to hear about Feyi's, architectural journey, I'm going to put a link in the show notes so you can listen to the last year's episode. It was really so heartwarming to hear kind of your goals and what you were doing. And so how was it listening back to that episode where you are today?
So I'm going to be honest with you. When I first started listening back to it, I started to get into a self-depreciation mode a bit. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you said you're going to do all these big things. And it's been a year later, you haven't done anything yet. But then I had to give myself grace and was like, well, life happened this past year, honestly. And it threw me for a loop. But right now that I'm taking time to rest and heal, I think I can actually accomplish the goals that I set for myself last year. I'm learning. I am a very optimistic and very ambitious person, which a lot of the women on your podcast are.
Yes.
And I think sometimes for me, I can take on too many things, with great intentions and everything. But sometimes in those moments, I neglect myself or I neglect the actual capacity that I can actually take. So looking back on the episode, I could see that the burnout starting to show. But I was I can power through it. I can get through it. These people need me. My teammates need me. But then at the detriment of myself, where I basically make myself get sick. So now I can listen now and be like, okay, cool. I'm in a better mental health space. I'm in a better physical health space where I can actually take the exams with a state where I can actually recall and remember everything. I'm actually back in the process now of taking my exams. I did take an exam a couple weeks ago and I did not pass, but it was nice getting out of that test anxiety that I was feeling. Like I said, it was about 2 or 3 years since I've taken an exam. So getting back in the chair was a little bit nerve wracking, but now that I've gone through it, I'm like, okay, cool. I built up this wall of I can't do this. It's been a minute. How am I going to remember these things? I've been like, oh, okay, this is not that bad. And fortunately, you can take as many practice exams as you want. It's not the same as sitting in that room.
Oh, no. Oh, no, it is not.
Exam. But it was a nice release in that moment. So now I feel more charged up. I feel more empowered to just tackle the last 4 with more focus, because that's actually my word of the year, focus.
Oh, nice. I like it. And it's interesting to hear from so many people and you're living through it, is that stress and that burnout starts to manifest itself in the body.
Yeah.
And I remember always hearing about it. And I don't know if it's because we're not 18, 19 years old anymore. Because I feel I had stressful moments, architecture school, but you powered through. You
Sure.
you were just yeah, more caffeine, whatever. I'll get through it. And I don't know if it's also with age, but it's just you feel it more. But I also think, and I also think it comes from multiple directions. It's not just school, because when you're in school, all you have to worry about is school, unless, of course, you might have family or you may have a child or work. But for a majority of us, it was mostly focusing on school. But now it's coming from so many different areas that it can be a lot to take on. And it's interesting that it always manifests in the body.
Yeah. And it was one thing that one of my friends was saying, how a lot of people you'll get it in your jaw, or you'll see it in your hands, where or your chest and your shoulders, where your posture is really great when you first start out and you start hunching.
Yeah.
And you're going up like this, and it's you're literally making yourself smaller and more compact. And it's it's hard for you to feel that freedom, and you're holding on to that stress. So one thing I've really started doing, we're just getting up early, it's going on walks, just getting outside. Yeah. Especially now that the weather's nice, getting outside, just seeing some sun, whether I'm doing a workout class or something to get my body moving,
Yeah, no, it's important. I think that's what I've been trying to do too is go for a walk after lunch, just do
Hmm.
a little lap around my apartment complex or something.
Yeah.
Or like yesterday, I had a meeting in LA and it's like an hour and a half there, hour and a half back in the car. You're
Hmm.
sitting at the meeting. I got home, I put everything down. I found a 15-minute yoga video for like stretching your legs. And I was
Hmm.
like, okay, I cannot do anything until I move my body a little bit in just some
Yeah.
stretches because I'm like, the next thing I'm going to do is sit at my desk until dinner time. Like I have to like
You have to do
release it.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's important to take care of yourself.
for sure.
And so now that you're on the sabbatical, I'm jealous. I kind of want to be on it with you. I'm like looking at my to-do list. I'm like, oh my gosh, flying by the seat of my pants a few days in a row now. But I think that is really wise of you, very mature of you to have like found, okay, here's a pattern I'm about to repeat. This time I'm going to put myself first. And that's a really hard thing to do.
And it was. I mean, like I would say, like I have a privilege to take the sabbatical. I know it's not always the case for a lot of people to be able to just like step away just for like a couple
Mhm.
months, just be like, okay,
Mhm.
to get yourself together. Like I said, it was really at a point where I wasn't showing up for myself or anyone around me the way that I know I could. And sometimes drastic change calls for drastic measures, you know?
Mhm.
So I was just like, you know what? I know this is going to disappoint some people and this might be a shock to people and people may not agree with it. But at the end of the day, I know if this is going to make me a better architect and a better
Mhm.
designer moving forward, I'll take the risk.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boundaries. You have to set boundaries. And that's what I'm very proud of myself last night in a client meeting. They were like, "Oh, can you get this, and this done?" And I'm like, "It's like 5:30. I'm running on like this is hour 11 for me today at work." I'm like, "No, you can't get this by tomorrow. You can get it by Wednesday."
Yeah.
And it's like you have to, I mean, I think that's a problem too. And we kind of talked about it earlier is there was COVID, which slowed a lot of people down. And
Mhm.
then we were getting out of COVID. So we started saying yes to a lot of things and
Yes.
we were excited about a lot of things. And we're taking all these things on. And now we're in this like go, go, go. And it's just like, yeah, but I don't want to go, go, go. Like, part of me is
Yeah.
like, maybe a lockdown wouldn't be so bad for a couple of weeks, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. I was joking with my friends the other day. I said, we need nap times again. We need to go back to like our preschool, kindergarten ways. Cause I just feel like, and maybe it's just not the 9 to 5 structure. I think it's just in general, the way that we're working doesn't suit us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that there was more freedom in the way that we show up at work. And I would say, I think if there was more freedom in the way we work, a lot of people would be more productive.
Oh, yes.
And like I said, we wouldn't be as overwhelmed if we are taking on more things because we could take more breaks. But like I said, I think the big thing with that freedom is you have to create systems and boundaries to maintain that freedom,
Mm-hmm.
like what you said. I think with boundaries, they're meant to protect you,
Mm-hmm.
but you also have to be honest with yourself and
Yeah.
know like what you can take on, what things are in your control, what things are out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, okay, how am I going to show up in this moment? Because I applaud you. If I had a client tell me like, hey, I need all these things, I would definitely be like, oh yeah, I can get that to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then be stressed out. Why did I tell them I'm not
Yeah.
going to do this thing when I'm doing it and they're not doing it like wholeheartedly?
Mm-hmm.
So like one thing my siblings and I always talk about is like give yourself like a room for margin.
Yes.
So give yourself time to like get some rest and give yourself time to truly like work out and problem solve so you can produce the best design for your client.
Mm-hmm. No, you have to. And I think too, that's with also, it was later in the day. My productivity like drops a lot at 2 p.m. Like I'm a
Mhm.
morning person, like morning time, you get my maximum brain power. If you want
Yeah.
me to work on something after 2 o'clock, you may not want me working on something after 2 o'clock because I'm not giving you my full, like, I mean, there's like things like, that's why I like doing like site visits in the afternoon, things where I can like walk
Same.
around, like you're not
Yeah.
sitting at the computer yet. And so I almost wanted to be like, this could be detrimental. I will make mistakes and I know I'll make mistakes. Like there was one day a couple weeks ago, I got some stomach bug and I had 2 morning meetings where I had to field measure. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could feel feverish. I was like, when I get home, I'm not going to send any more emails out. I'm just going to relax. And then I was like, okay, I do have to send one more email out. I sent it to the wrong person. They got an attachment with something like it wasn't anything bad, thankfully, but it was like it was for part of a women's organization up in LA, AWA plus D. And I sent an email to the woman hosting an event that weekend, but I sent it to the client I had just met with. And I was like, hey, here's the list of attendees. Like, oh my gosh, let me know how the event goes. Sent it to him, was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And was like, okay, so that could have been worse. I could have said
Yeah.
something different. So I'm like, time to put the computer away. And then we're just not going to do anything the rest of the day. Because if you made that little mistake, I don't even want to know what kind of mistake I could make because I was so tired.
And I think one thing too that we can understand is that people can wait. If we tell them like, hey, just give me some time, I really want to show up for you and do this for you well. Most people are understanding. Most people. Like I said, optimism is coming back. But I do think that like with those small mistakes, it's like, hey, this is a flag. Not necessarily a red flag, but it's like, hey, this is a warning. What do you got to do to correct this? And like I said, it's a good thing that it was a small mistake too.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you're like, hey, brain, let's chill for a bit. This email can wait and we'll come back to it. And I will say, I think one thing that I'm unlearning is that not everything's on fire. Like when we say like we're dealing with all the fires, you know, we're trying to figure out which one to put out first. So I'm like, not everything actually is a fire. You know, we don't have to make it so urgent.
Yeah, so true. It is. I think it's that. And I used to give that to myself, like with a stressful moment, I would be like, okay, is anybody's life at stake right now? No. Okay, let's knock it down a tier. Is anybody's like housing, shelter, or do we have a place to sleep tonight? Yes. Okay, great. Everybody's good on that sense. Okay. Can everybody eat? Okay. Okay. So first three things, it's not that crazy of a major issue. Like we're all good. Like health and safety is there for like the individuals in the moment. And then you start to think of like, okay, it's not that bad. But there are moments, and I think too, because we're in an industry that is very high paced, and also there's a lot of, it's not really like our fees, but there's like the value of what we're working on. And I know you've had experience in commercial where there's really large budgets and a mistake could be a multi-figure change order. And like, those are some issues. So like there becomes a time where it gets a little scary to be like, okay, wow, if I make this mistake, it could cost the client thousands of dollars. So like there are really high stakes, and it's not, you know, we're not like brain surgeons and operating on people, but we do have responsibilities that can make or break certain projects, you know? And so it's like when we keep working and working and then we make this little mistake, you know, it could be a domino effect. And so I think too, it's like a lot of responsibility on our shoulders, which I think a lot of the public doesn't recognize what we do in architecture and like why it's so stressful, because there's a lot of responsibility on top of code compliance, the health, safety, and welfare of the public, keeping that in mind. But the day to day, like there are big things. And so we have to, but like you said, not everything's a fire, but just knowing which ones are the ones you need to handle. And that's hard to figure out sometimes.
It is. And I think you brought up a really good point too about like how clients, they have their own deadlines. But I think if we can explain on our end, like, hey, this is the amount of time it actually takes to get this done. And this is why we need this time to make sure that like when we're submitting our construction documents, like these go through the permit process quickly. And when we are doing our code analysis, making sure that you don't have any issues down the line with an inspector coming in to shut down your project when it's going through construction, when you have people on site and they're not in danger because you've made sure that you've annotated all of your drawings with the right notes and the right symbols. Sometimes it takes a while, and it can get to a point where we get so stuck on fee. We get so stuck on fee, we get so stuck on time and schedules. And yes, staying on schedule is important. But I think for me, when I'm coming out of the commercial space and coming out of a space where we don't have enough answers to the questions that you don't know you have. And sometimes those areas are where you get tripped up when it comes to, oh, you have to go back and correct something. Oh, you've missed a sheet of notes, which has happened before. And you're like, why? How could I have missed this? And then you're realizing, oh, in the programming phase, we did not do enough of our due diligence to get things done. Or not necessarily due diligence, you didn't ask enough questions, or the client changed their mind halfway through and it wasn't documented well. So how do you go through and like remedy those moments to make sure you're producing a good work for your client, but also like giving yourself grace for those moments too? It's like, you don't know what you don't know. And so coming out of those, it's just like, okay, cool. Now you can produce good work and let your client know like, hey, we want to produce a great project for you. We want to make sure that this is a safe project for you and whoever is occupying these buildings afterwards. So if we can work on a schedule together that is reasonable to both parties, then I think that might be a way that as architects and designers, we can start to educate our clients more. And I know that work is being done. I think also there's an interesting gap now that I'm noticing with like the students I'm mentoring, where there's not as many professionals willing to like teach how to like navigate those areas of how do you educate a client when I'm still being educated myself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because we know that the architecture profession, it's one of those ones where the longer you're in it, the better you are. And then I guess that's with everything, but when you're just out of college, you're not expected to know anything, but you are expected to still show up and do everything.
Yeah.
Which is one of those things where I'm learning how to like tell my mentees and tell the students that I'm talking with how to navigate that. Because it's a weird state of mind to be in when like you're told to do everything and take these exams and join extracurriculars and like I said, load up your plate from the jump so you can get all these awards and accolades. But sometimes we lose the momentum when it comes to like producing the work because we're so stuck on the getting things out quickly and making sure we're hitting the fee and we're not going over budget, which are all important things. But I just think we need to take more care with teaching in this season.
No, I think that's really true. And I wanted to ask if you were volunteering and where you were with that this year. So I'm glad that was a really good segue. So I do appreciate that. But I think it's really important and it's interesting that you were able to spot it with yourself and then how you communicate that to the younger generation, because I think it must be so intimidating right now coming into the profession on top of you have AI, on top of just what also this incoming class or incoming group into the profession would have started architecture school in 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
So like that's a whole different, when you take that into consideration, the kind of like workload they were used to and like the deadlines and like the fast pace of what it must feel like for them now, it must be a lot. So I think it's really great that you recognize that and great that you are now teaching that to the next generation.
Yeah.
And I also want to talk about commercial work because commercial work, I know last year when we talked, I was like, yeah, mostly residential. I recently took on a commercial project.
Did you?
I did. It's a tenant improvement, but the pace of commercial versus residential, wow. Commercial is like, you got to go.
Yeah, you have no choice but to go.
Yeah.
They're like, we have to fill the space like immediately.
Yeah.
Do you want me asking like what type of fit out project it is?
Yes. So it's a coffee shop.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah. A lot of the hospitality, like boutique hospitality, those go very fast.
And that's where the flying by the seat of my pants. I took it on. I was like, this will be a fun challenge. The client seemed great, and the client is great in case they're listening. And so, no, but the whole team is great. But it's going from residential where like, yeah, it's a fast pace. It felt fast paced, but like it's more fast paced during construction, I would say, because that's when the clients want to move in. And they're like, okay, let's get this going. I want to move in by Christmas. I want to have Christmas here. I want to have Thanksgiving here. Like those are usually the deadlines there that are really big. Or like, I want my, daughter's wedding here. So those are like the things. But commercial, it's like, wow, every day that plan isn't done or every day that client is not in that space making coffee is a day that's negative. And it's just like, whew, it's a lot. I don't know if I'm going to do it again, but it's a ride. It's definitely a ride. That's for sure.
I'm curious to know, like, what part of like the project are you on right now?
So we're kind of all over. There's a minor use permit that's involved. We have to do a public hearing because we're changing the use of the building. There's there's like a few things. We're working on the tenant improvement. I'm working on the health department drawings. So like we're kind of in like design development, but then we're also kind of bouncing around because I'm getting stuff ready.
Yeah.
While we wait, you're kind of like, there's like 3 trains moving at the same time, but at different speeds at the same destination. And it's like, whew, so it's a lot.
It is. And I think even doing that as like a solopreneur too, it's like, it's a lot to balance.
It is.
But the good thing is that we know you're more than capable of doing it.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see the updates for it.
Thank you.
I'm here to give a helping hand whenever you need it.
Thank you. It's interesting how heavily I have been taking knowledge from the exams.
Yeah.
To help me, like, because the exams are so commercial based.
They are.
And I think we might have talked about that last time too, is like, so for me in residential, the exams, I was like, I don't understand half of this. I never need to apply it. Now I'm applying it. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That's why this was done this way. And I'm like, yeah, especially the ADA knowledge. I'm very proud of how much I remember and what's coming through. So that's been really interesting. So so it's kind of become a full circle moment with the exams where I'm like, okay, yeah, they definitely were worth something for me. Even as a residential architect, I'm like, okay, yeah. I remember
That's
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know for me, I'm going through the same thing because I have been freelancing a little bit just to like make sure I don't lose like the documentation portion of my knowledge.
Mhm.
And it's nice being able to work at a slower pace right now and working through phases of the exams that I'm actually studying for. So 100%, it's just like, okay, cool. If I'm helping with programming and site development for a new small commercial building that's coming up, how to like make sure that all of the code and code appliant, wow, words. All of the code compliance things are accurate, making sure that we're using the correct code for whatever jurisdiction has authority, making sure like our clients are still aware, like a lot of research goes into this before we put pen to paper and before we pick out finishes and we do all the pretty renderings and get our contractors on board. Is this like a permit, like a design bid build thing, or do they have a contractor already?
We have a contractor. We have a contractor on board. Yeah, they've been on board since the very beginning, which is really helpful.
Good.
And he knows commercial stuff. So I lean to him. And it's interesting because when you were talking about earlier on about, we're trying to not make mistakes or we catch stuff so that there's no issues during inspection. That's something I've been kind of wrapping my head around a little bit when it comes to commercial, because there was some situation where we needed to put something somewhere. And I'm like, well, just do that after final inspection. It'll be fine. Because in residential, after final inspection, like nobody usually comes back. But in commercial, especially food, they come back.
A lot. They will.
They do. So it's interesting where I'm like, well, if the inspector's walking through and they see this, well, it's okay because, we can just do this after final inspection. It's like, oh, no, you cannot. And so that's also been interesting. And so it's been really great. Like I've been learning a lot from the contractor as well. And just like, it's been a really interesting project to say for sure. Like I'm glad I have 2 to 3 projects that have been in like the schematic design phase right now residentially, which has been kind of nice because that way I can like jump into this project, which is really at this point mostly administrative because we're getting certain things done. And then residential is like, okay, now we can design and like make things look pretty. But it's like, and we don't have to worry about, so many clearances and distances and heights of stuff. And it's just like, it's a lot, but it's been interesting. Commercial is something really interesting. And so would you see yourself going back to commercial or would you ever?
Absolutely. I mean, I think in an ideal world, I'd be able to do both residential and commercial. I would love to go back to commercial. I mean, that's been my bread and butter for the past 9 years. So they're not getting rid of me anytime soon. To be honest, but the break's definitely necessary to appreciate it more. For me, I'm very much like a hands-on learner. And a lot of the projects I was designing for and doing documentation for, I wasn't seeing built for a while, which is very, very common in a lot of commercial projects, where it takes a while depending on the client that you're working for, whether it's like a governmental organization or it's like a large corporation where they're designing in phases or they're doing it for like multiple branches. So you may not actually see the project be built and brought to life, but you know that you still had your hand to plow in a sense. But for me, I love being on site. Like I love being able to like see things come together. Like I'm very much creative, but I kind of have that engineering brain where like I want to see like how things come together. Oh, to actually draw that correctly. I know like it is up to the contractor and the GC for the means and methods on site. But for me, I want to be able to have pride in like knowing like, okay, cool. I actually did detail that right. Or maybe there's a better way for me to document this so I don't have to have 10 sheets of details when it could just be like one and it's like a variation in a note like that. So right now I'm doing a lot of field trips where just like self-scheduled field trips where I'm just going out to different projects or I'm going to spaces that I would want to design, like types of spaces I want to design. So like maybe I'll like go to a museum or I'll go to a local coffee shop or a chain that I have not explored yet and just be like, okay, cool. How did they design this? More so like on the brand design side, seeing how like their website kind of transferred over into like the built environment side, what choices were made, how are people actually interacting in the spaces? Did the way the designer saw it in their head and put it on paper, is it actually how people are using the space? So right now it's kind of like I'm doing like field research and seeing like how I want to design better in the future.
I think this whole, whatever that final, like, whatever this, is it the stick that broke the camel's back? Is that what it is? No, that's not
right.
Yeah, that sounds right. Okay.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? Whatever that was, whatever that saying is. Anyway, whatever it was, whatever moment happened for you to then, whatever like that final straw, that's what I think it is.
That's what it was. Okay, I know it's an S. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So, whatever the final straw was for you to take this sabbatical, I think at the end of the day, when you look back at this time, you are going to be like, wow, this made me a better designer, a better architect, a better person. Because, like, to hear that you're not just like on the beach sipping a margarita or whatever, just being like, oh, I just need a break, which is also very important. It's balance.
Oh, my God, 100%.
But yeah. But you're also educating yourself during this time. And you're like, how can I make myself better? And it's just like, it almost reminds me of like when you studied, I know it's all like male architects, but like back in like early 1900s, and like these architects would go on these trips and they'd get these ideas and they'd be like working and flowing. And you're like, who has time for that? And you've made time for that, which is incredible.
Yeah. And it's funny because one of the things that actually I was focusing on doing was actually getting into carpentry.
Really?
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when we go back to like a lot of the architects that we call greats and that we look into for like our history classes and everything, a lot of them were master craftsmen. And so they did the construction. They also did design. And I know that our industry now is like kind of split those roles to just design and just construction. And I was doing a lot of like soul searching. I was like, why did we have to split? So what do I need to do to feel like for me as a better designer? And that would be like actually building what I draw. So it's kind of like going back to like the woodworking classes that I took in undergrad. Yeah. So literally going back to doing carpentry and designing furniture for a bit, getting into like custom millwork and taking on projects in my home to be like, okay, now as I'm drawing these details and these sections and in these elevations, being as specific as possible, if depending on if it's residential or commercial, and seeing what information is actually needed for this to be built. Because if I am the GC on site, or if I am a tradesperson on site, what do I need to get the job done correctly? Like what information is like fluff? What information is like, this is too detailed for me to do my work? This is just confusing at this point. And just finding that balance. So I'm going to start those classes in a couple weeks, which I'm really excited about. And like I said, I'm still freelancing a bit to still have like my drafting experience at home still. But I'm hoping that my hands-on experience will help me rewire my brain and get me back into a space where I'm way more confident in my ability to design. For sure.
No, that's
and
really
maybe
cool.
I'll have a whole furniture line that comes out in a couple of years. You never know.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I think too, and I want to come back to the fact that you want to know what you designed, can it actually be built? And I was at a job site a couple months ago at this point with the interior designer. And she's like, you're so involved as an architect, like at the site. And I was like, well, yeah, this is like construction admin time, but like, yeah, I have to see this go through. And she's like, most of the architects I work with, after we get the permit, they just disappear. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, this is the best part. Like everything I drew is now being built. Like, I mean, it is a remodel, but there's these few little elements that I cannot wait to like sit down with the contractor and be like, okay, so I designed it like this. Does this even work? And then how does it work? Like, I want to know. And I think that's really, really important. And it puts the ego aside. And it could be because we're also women. I don't know if that plays part of it, but I think that's so great that you want to educate yourself. I'm very similar in that sense of like, now get me to the job site. I want to learn. I want to know how this came together, and I want to problem solve, because that's one of the fun things about this industry.
Exactly. Also, I don't know if a lot of people are given opportunities to go on site as much anymore. I mean, that makes because a lot of things aren't really being built. Well, I think that's just a perception that actually is not true. I just think that a lot of people aren't given not permission. I don't think people aren't advertising the opportunities to get on site as much for younger professionals. And I know that mentors, they say it a lot. You have to get on site, you have to get on site, you have to get on site. But if things aren't being built in your area, how can you get on site? And a lot of times, like people don't have like Habitat for Humanity, or they don't have like a lot of these construction oriented programs that they can learn these things through. So honestly, a lot of times I'm going on YouTube and looking up like residential builders. There's a whole bunch of craft channels that I've been like watching that I can send links for as well. Yeah. Where I'm like looking at the way that certain details are coming together, how storefronts are being designed and constructed. And it has also been very helpful with my exams as well, because I'm a visual learner. So as much as I am hands-on, I have to see why I'm drawing what I'm drawing. So then when I see on a diagram, like, okay, cool, this is actually why the waterproofing has to be on this side of the wall versus on this side. This is why these certain, oh my gosh, what was the word? It's okay. But how everything come together. But basically, I'm just learning how things come together and knowing why you're drawing with intention. Like why every page matters. Basically. And I know a lot of times, I think I was talking to another mentor of mine where they would say that you would charge per sheet. Like in certain back, I don't know if it was back in the day, but like you would charge per sheet of like the drawings or like whatever, like square footage for the sheet. And I was like, that's really weird. But when you think about it, like you're billing your time based on how many sheets you need for the set to be complete. And I was just like, that's interesting. And I think that's another way they're like, hey, this is why it's important to know and like cartoon your set out to know like how many man hours is going to take to do 8 hours for one construction documentation, you know? So that was always something I found interesting. Even now, as like I'm learning how to do how I would run my fees if and when I decide to do my business. Not if, when I do my business, and using your resource as well as other resources to get those fees sorted out, figure out my systems, and just not be afraid to charge what I know I'm worth and what my value is as a woman in architecture and a Black woman in architecture as well.
It is important. It's the value you bring to a project. It's something I'm working through right now through a coaching session, a group coaching, to deal with how do I up my rate and still feel confident giving that rate, because I do bring a lot to the table. And it's kind of scary, you know, when you start like, okay, well, if I charge them more, like what if they say no and I don't get this project, and all these like insecurities, but it's really interesting. That's a whole nother conversation about.
Don't worry. I was like, I'm ready to have a conversation with you for sure.
So there was one more thing I wanted to talk about. And I don't know if you remember, we talked about this last year, but it was off air after our call. And I kind of checked in with you because now that I have my own business, I was watching like the economy and the election. And last year was an election year. And we talked after the call and I said, how are things like, because you're in DC. Are you still in DC?
Oh yeah, still in DC.
Okay, you're still in DC. And so I was like, hey, you know, I'm out here in California. Like I see things, I hear things, but it doesn't feel like that doesn't impact. It feels like we're so far away geographically. But so last year, I remember asking you, I said, because I started having a lull up until the election because so many things were like uncertain. And I was like, wow, I've never followed an election so closely as far as business wise. Yeah. And I think we talked a lot about, and I heard a lot of like job layoffs a lot, especially in the commercial sectors last year. And so that was really interesting to hear from your perspective. I feel like where I'm at with high-end residential in South Orange County, it's kind of a protected bubble, which is really good. I think we kind of, from what I heard back in 08, 09, most people were able to write it out as far as in the construction architecture industry. But still, like with everything happening now with like the tariffs and like ICE and all these things happening, like, and the LA fires, we're definitely feeling it's like a weird shift of things happening here in Southern California. So I was curious, now that it's after the election, how are things going, like job-wise, construction-wise? Like, are things being built? Are things not being built?
So there was a huge pause, like right after the elections. And for me, a lot of my projects were either put on hold or pulled.
That's so
because a lot of them were government funded.
Right.
I think a lot of time, well, for me, when I was working on the government side of things, we shifted towards state and local government versus federal government.
Okay.
And so it was a huge shift for my bosses at the time to work on their business development connections and the people they've been talking with for years to make sure we still had projects in the pipeline. And I truly commend them because they were putting like feet to the ground, like working. I think it's one of the things they've really taught me about like how to continue to nurture relationships in the profession and in the industry, because you never know when we're going to have these lulls on the market. But for the government sector, it definitely shifted from more federal work to local and state government. And for other sectors too, it died down a bit because a lot of people's money were tied into stocks and they were tied into things that were waiting on the results of the election. So now I think things are balancing out a bit better. And I know that we keep saying we're like ghosting into another recession, but it's like a quiet recession at this point. But I do think that there's still pockets of opportunity in the area. There are a lot of like restaurants still popping up. There are a lot of like community focused events that people like are yearning for. So I know the community center spaces are definitely still a thing, a focus. I know like a lot of churches and like boutique hospitality are popping up. So I think and I know like it depends on the area of like DC. I'm in like the DC metro area. So even in like Maryland and Virginia, I haven't focused more on like the residential side, but I know like multifamily is coming back again. So I think that certain markets are still like pretty stable. Multifamily, honestly, I don't think they're going anywhere. I think it's just learning how to pivot right now. And I'm just learning how to pivot and learning what to look for in the like trends to see where we should focus on. Because I would like to be a well-rounded designer, but I also know once again, I have to balance and see what types of work I want to take on. Do I want to take on like aviation? Do I want to still get back into like K through 12 or like higher education? There are a lot of different ways that this profession can suit you. So it's just taking the time to evaluate like how you want to use your impact to create good work.
No, I think that's beautifully said. And I think it's just so interesting. When I was thinking back about it, I wanted to check in with you on that too. And that's really interesting. And I think to just round today words. Whatever. I know. It's like, and it's only Tuesday. Don't talk to me on Friday. But just to like conclude the conversation, I loved how you talked about the different areas of architecture. And I think that's what's so incredible about this industry once you get into it is you can do aviation for a decade and then be like, oh, been there, done that. That was great. Now let's do hotels. Great. Perfect. Hospitality. Now let's do residential. You can constantly keep evolving and changing throughout this industry, which I think makes it so incredible. So I think it's just a perfect field for you to be in. And I think I'm excited to see what the future holds for you.
Thank you so much. Like I said, as many updates I can give you, I definitely will.
And likewise, I'll keep you posted on this coffee shop project for sure.
For sure.
Well, Feyi, where can listeners find you?
So I am still on Instagram, YouTube, I believe TikTok, and Threads at hey.feyi.
Perfect. I'll provide a link in the show notes. Feyi, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Katerina. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of From the Honeycomb podcast. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with your friends. To stay connected, follow me on Instagram at From the Honeycomb podcast, and you can support the podcast through the Patreon link in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to my monthly newsletter where I share exclusive behind-the-scene content and tips on running a mindful and successful architecture business. Thank you again for listening, and stay curious.